to Just Breathe. I'm always thrilled to have an opportunity to share the practice. So thank you for being here. I want to play a little bit with kind of a visualization of the anatomy of breathing, right? And what that means in a practical sense is that we're going to have to set aside some of our yogic training as far as breathing down into the belly, right? It's not that that is wrong or bad, but it's also not that it's more right. It's just one of the ways. And when we breathe low into the lower belly, right, it's just that expansion of the lungs. And we've even used a visualization, myself included, of filling up like it's water, right? But our lungs don't function like that. That's not water, right? In fact, the way that the lungs, particularly the alveoli inside the lungs, they're in a basically kind of a curled up phase. And then as we inhale, they unfurl, spread, and open. And it's right here in the mid-thoracic that the depth of that opening and expansion. And yes, it unfurls lower as well. And most of that oxygen is transitioned in the lower lobes, right, the bottom of the ribs. It's just as those lungs expand, the diaphragm presses down and the belly puffs out. But that can often get us a little caught up in ego, or the idea that if I have a longer breath that somehow that's better. So we're going to do two things in our Just Breathe practice today. And the first of which is just to see if we can't cultivate a little more of the witness of what is our natural breath flow. Then we'll bring in a little bit of movement to help mirror this visualization of this unfurling to expand our breath. Okay? All right, so find a comfortable seat and welcome to Just Breathe. So as you land, let yourself ease into this shape. And in the Kripalu tradition, we breathe, relax, feel, witness, and allow. But it's those first three that are most palpable, the most accessible in our human bodily form. So breathe. On the exhale, relax. And then feel. Not just the emotions, but more importantly, feel into the senses of the body. Breathe in. Breathe out and relax. And feel. What needs to be adjusted or shifted or tweaked in order to increase the comfort in this position, in this shape. And as we align the breathe, relax, and feel, and there's nothing that needs to be fine-tuned or tweaked or changed, we kind of slide our way into the witness, just to observe. And it's that witness that we want to use to just measure, first, just how long our inhale is. Our natural, not trying to accentuate or engage in any effort. Just notice. So find an easy tempo. And what does that mean? It means that we're not getting any buzzing. We're not getting any dizziness. We're not gasping. We're not holding. So no ujjayi, right? There's nothing about retaining or trying to control. Just let it move. And we'll take maybe 5 or 6 of these. the breath is feeling steady, just bring in a tempoed count to see how long it takes for you to complete the inhale. There's no need to exaggerate that retention, but there's no reason to force it either. Just let the breath back out. And take 3 or 4 of these to see if it's consistent or what the average length of your inhale is. Now, keep in mind, we're counting while the breath is moving. We're not counting once the breath ceases to move. Okay, take a couple of free cleansing breaths, meaning no count, if you can. Just notice how you feel. This is our inquiry. This is our assessment. Was that a good reflection of my natural breath? Meaning I'm at ease. There's no gasping. There's no recovery. There's no struggle. There's no buzzing. There's no vision impairment, no dizziness. Those are all signs of over breathing. And if you are steady and good to go, shift your attention now to the exhale. So coming up with a bit of an average, right, of whatever that exhale count is. Because now we're going to bring them into relationship, the inhale and the exhale. Now, the optimum breath in terms of our respiratory system is about 5.5 to 6 seconds in, 5.5, 6 seconds out, which gives us about 6 breaths per minute. Now, you could use a metronome and get really specific about that pacing, but it's not necessary. So the idea here is to take a few breaths and see if you can't find that evenness of the 5.5 in, 5.5 out. If you are feeling some buzziness, then you're going to bring a little bit of a more length on that exhale. If you're already starting at an unevenness, start to move yourself just gently, 1 breath, maybe 3 breaths at a time, into a greater balance. Now the pacing is what we're focusing on here, not the length so much. So just find that easy pace, even if it's only 4 seconds as opposed to the 5.5 or 6. Just see if you can find that evenness in the pace. Stay with that, or bring the backs of your hands together, gentle cupping into the fists, letting the knuckles or the back of the hands rest, the pinkies rest on the sternum. Right, so the fingers are up, so it's just kind of flipping the namaste hands. And then this is that idea, is that it's curled in, so that as we inhale, we're going to unfurl. Unfurl the hands, unfurl the lungs. You might even feel a lifting of the chin or the opening of the arms. Elbows can rest by your side body, Or they could go on all the way up into some form of a goddess, right? But here we are, once again, coming back to that breath, that metaphor of unfurling like a fern, unfurling from the palms to the wrists. We're also getting some lubrication into the forearms. But see if you can't find that even breath in and out. Now, if that's feeling easeful, again, non-threatening, there's no desperation, there's no clicking in your throat, there's no sense of desperation, add on another count. Whether that's just the exhale or both the exhale and the inhale. So see if you can expand that. We're pushing the tolerance just a little bit more, tickling the edge. And we'll take maybe 4 or 5 here as we finish up the efforting of this practice. Personally, I have to really restrain myself from pushing too much. That's my habit, that's my tendency, my MO. But there's very little to be gained when you are pushing all the time. And how would we know if we're pushing if we don't first know where our boundaries, where our edges, where enough is enough? Knowing our own ratio, our own tempo, is about getting to know ourselves better and celebrating that my breath is unique to me, my pace is unique to me, my volume is unique to me. And so, as well-intended as any guiding teacher may be, your job is to breathe your breath, not theirs. That's the practice. The hands come to rest in the namaste pose, palms together. The thumbs might rest on the heart. Feel the breath as it expands. You might feel your shoulders and your elbows splay out. You might feel your hands kind of come forward a bit. Just notice. And receive this blessing. May you breathe deeply. Move freely. May you labor lovingly. May you live vibrantly. Namaste. I'm curious at what your pace, your ratio was, or maybe where your tendencies showed up for the practice today. Any comments, questions, observations, or challenges?
Yeah. Until we started doing this, I didn't realize how much more I could fit than when I just had my hands down at my sides.
Mm-hmm.
My shoulders naturally rounding forwards, closing up my chest a little bit. It was closing me off, and I wasn't really noticing that tension there until I started opening up, and I found that I could get a whole extra second even before you asked to add that extra count.
Yeah.
And then I stopped and was just focused on keeping my chest up and my shoulders back, and I could do it without the motion. And it was much more easeful because that was starting to bother my shoulders, just repeating that again and again.
Yes. Especially if you're working from an imbalanced place, right? So that rounding of the shoulders forward, you use the word, my shoulders naturally forward. Well, that's not natural. It may be habitual, right? Yeah. And so just even being aware of some of those enabling patterns, hence, we always come here. What does it feel like to come here, right? Just that little bit of a change. Yeah, good. So don't rush through that, right? In the sense that there's a lot to be discovered when we give ourselves that mental space to just witness, and then will come the allowing. Just as you kind of indicated, James, in the sense that once you found that that was available, how much more accessible it was without having to concentrate on it. That's when we transition from the witnessing to the allowing. And that's where we really begin to reap the benefits of this new level of intimacy and aliveness.